For those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Chrysler. I use he, him pronouns. I am a white man in my early 30s, wearing a brown sweater, and I have short brown hair. I'm on staff here at the Wyoming Arts Council as the folklorist and the health and wellness in the arts specialist. I have just a couple housekeeping notes I want to go over really quickly here before we get started. We recognize that these Zoom meetings can get a little tiring at times, so we just want to encourage everybody to do what you need to do in order to be comfortable and stay engaged. So if you need to take a break, feel free to do that. Stand up and stretch, go get a drink of water, whatever you need to do to stay as engaged as you can throughout the summit, feel free to do that. We are recording today's sessions and we'll be making those available later on. So if you feel like you missed something or want to go back to rewatch, that will be an option to you later on. If you would like captions, we have enabled Zoom's live transcription feature. So if you want to view the captions, I think you can just click on the CC live transcript button that should be at the bottom of the screen down at the bottom. For today's session, I was going to say I would encourage everybody to turn your camera on as you feel comfortable doing so. I think that some of the first session will have a little bit of will be a little interactive. There might be some possibilities for engagement with the speakers, and that always helps the presenters know who they're talking to as well. Also, feel free to make use of the chat feature for any questions or comments. We are planning on having 5 or 10 minutes left at the end of the first session here for Q&A. So we'll look forward to that discussion. And you can also use the hand raise feature if you'd like to ask a question rather than putting it in the chat. That's an option as well. Okay, I now have the pleasure of introducing our speakers for today's first session, which is entitled Art Saves Lives, the Healing Power of the Creative Voice. Art Saves Lives is an interactive session that will provide an overview of the use of creative art activities and therapeutic art practices in various educational, equine-assisted activities and personal growth sessions. And the speakers are Priscilla Marden, who is Executive Director of Horse Warriors here in Wyoming, and Dr. Terry Chase, who is Associate Professor of Nursing Mental Health at Colorado Mesa University. And I will turn it over here to Priscilla and Dr. Chase.
Thank you so much, Josh, and thank you, Priscilla, for inviting me to be a co-presenter with you today. And welcome all of you from Wyoming. I was a little nervous that maybe because I'm from Colorado, maybe it would be a little weird, but Josh assured me that people in Wyoming are very friendly, which I know that already. And so I thank you very much for having me. So I want to talk a little bit about what our objectives are for the session. You know, I come from academia, so we're always doing this kind of thing, but I want to make sure that you're going to have some tangible takeaways from our time together today. We really want to identify, and Priscilla and I have vast experience in using the creative arts with our work, both in her equine-assisted work, my equine-assisted work, and with my students as well. So we're going to really talk about how arts can be an essential component of healing. We're going to help you formulate some ideas and concepts to include therapeutic creative arts into your various therapy and non-therapy programs. We're going to demonstrate some accessible activities that we're going to show you actual outcomes that we've had from the projects and programs that we've done. And then we've assembled a whole list of resources for you to access for your own use later on. So I tried, Josh, to dump the materials in the chat box, but it's not letting me come from my own file. So you may have to send that out either in another way or not, but you all will get those resources. Plus you'll have our contact information at the end. Priscilla.
Hi, and I also want to welcome everybody too. And it's wonderful to see such an interest in art and mental health, because that's really what our focus is at Horse Warriors. You know, everybody is creative, and we get talked out of it a lot of times as we grow. The kids are really, really creative. And then by the time we get to be adults, we think, oh, we're not very good artists. So I'd like to introduce and reintroduce creativity to everyone, because it really is something that I feel is, it's just an intrinsic skill that human beings have. We're going to go over some concepts and definitions, and then both Terry and I are going to talk about how we use creativity just to augment all the other things that we're teaching. So if you want to go ahead and click that over, Terry, will.
Okay. Well, just a little bit more background. You know, as Josh introduced me, I am a professor of nursing down here at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. I have the degrees, and I have some other relevant work experience in healthcare and education. And I do lots and lots of presentations, and I've gotten really good with Zoom over the last couple of years, as many of you have probably also. So anyway, I got some background, and here's Priscilla's background.
Hi, and I'm a professional artist. I've made a lot of my living during my life as an illustrator and a calligrapher. My background was actually in writing, but I've gone back to my art roots and my passion from my childhood, using art to get ideas across. So I'm also a licensed equine professional, which my other passion is horses. But really, in my work, the horses are a hook. They're a hook to get mainly kids into a program that's mentored, that's emotionally and physically safe, and it gives them a place to really expand and express who they are. I too do a lot of presentations at conferences and love to kind of spring art, especially onto adults who just know they can't do it. And we have a really fun activity at the end that no matter how non-artsy you think you are, you'll really have a lot of fun with it. So for me, art's part of every day. It's part of every single thing that we do in our programs. And I just want to have a little shout out here to the Wyoming Arts Council for supporting that for us. We're very rural where we live, and not everybody gets to do art all the time, but thanks to them, all of our students do.
Good.
Okay. So there's a difference, there's a legal difference here that's really significant between art therapy and creative arts. I am not a therapist, so I'm very, very careful to walk that line. Terry, if you want to click that over, we'll talk a little bit. Art therapy really requires a licensed professional. If you're going to delve into the things that come up with your students, your clients, if it gets into the therapy aspect, when it crosses that line, that's who you need there co-facilitating with you. If it's creative arts, which is mostly what we do in our programs, those are wonderful ways of self-expression. Each individual can create something that's meaningful to them. With art therapy, what comes out is often a stepping stone to getting deeper into a personal issue. So in our program, we have a licensed therapist that does work with us, especially when we're working with families. And then in our other programs where I'm an art teacher, or we have our guest artists that come through the Wyoming Arts Council, that's where creative arts falls into what we do. A lot of things that come out can segue into art therapy. And I just really encourage everybody to do that kind of internal question of, is this something I can handle? Is this something I'm licensed to handle? Is this something that I'm capable of handling without doing any harm to someone else? Or is this where I'm the great art teacher and I can come in and say, hey, let's pop the dark in that and get a little more contrast into your picture. Whereas you might pop the dark on the therapy end, and then a therapist comes in and gets a little clarity on that picture.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much, Priscilla. So I'm going to start first with a little bit about how I've used creative arts in the work that I've done. And over the years, I've worked in a hospital setting as a patient and family education coordinator at a big hospital in Denver, where I did some of this work. In my BSN position here at Colorado Mesa University with my students, I also do professional coaching and consulting with individuals and groups. So I'll share a little bit about that, and then also share about how I use the creative arts in my own life. So the first example I want to provide for you is in the BSN nursing program. My students are really equipped as generalists in nursing, as you know, we're not specializing in any one nursing field or healthcare field. So I give them a broad base, also with patient education and wellness education, psychoeducational sessions we provide across the community for both elders and for the developmentally disabled. So this was a session that the students and I put together called Ollie the Octopus. And the mental health topic was about connection and health. And we did this, I want to say last fall or early spring, when we were still able, well, actually it was a time when we were able to be live with the clients, with the residents of this particular program. Everybody had to be masked and we had our temperature checks and all of that. But we're trying to get across the whole concept of connection, human connection, and how important that was for all of us from a health standpoint. So what we did is we provided them with an outline of Ollie the Octopus. And then as we gave our class and as we talked and as we interacted and as we modeled the importance of connection, the clients actually worked on their Ollie the Octopus. I've found that colored pencils, a piece of paper, and a packet of stickers is all I need to be able to provide this work for people, whether it be the developmentally disabled, my students, or the elders when we go out to their facilities as well. So at the well elderly sessions, we actually did, and this is just a very small sampling of the programs my students and I have put together. But on the top, you'll see that we had made some sleep. The topic was, again, the health and wellness topic was around sleep and rest and how important that was, not just for our physical health, but also for our mental health. And the students brought materials to make warmers, so neck warmers. They were socks. I think those were some kind of pinto beans and string. So it was very easy. We gave our class, we talked about the importance, and then we had a hands-on activity and an interactive activity. It was really fun. The elders loved it. We also did some safety briefings around, we don't want it to be too hot. If it's hot to your arm or hot to your touch on your finger, you don't put it on your neck, and keep it away from insensate areas or areas where there is no sensation. The picture on the bottom is we were making stress balls, and there's this whole big recipe of how to do this. I didn't include that, but some of you may know it has something to do with baking powder and salt and some other things and food coloring. That was a really great one too. Again, we were talking about stress and how stress impacts the body, and what are some ways that we can help reduce our stress in conjunction with an interactive activity of making the stress balls. I thought that was those two were really great examples. Now, how I use the creative arts with my students, one example is that I teach mental health. I teach the didactic classes, so all the disorders, the therapies, all the age ranges, all of that. And I also supervise and coordinate all of our clinical experiences. So before students go out into the clinical settings, which most of them have never had any experience with mental health imbalances or issues, or at least up until the time they get into my class, they don't know that they have. But as an orientation and as a preparation for that, I have them do some of this hands-on creative arts work to help with some appropriate self-disclosure. So at the beginning of our orientation session, which is a 3-day session, I have them create a sculpture that represents something about themselves. Instead of just going around the room like usual, introduce yourself, or all that, we do it differently. I say, so I bring out Play-Doh. I have my little, I don't have any on my desk right now, but I have the little things of Play-Doh. And the students are given, 10 minutes to create a sculpture that represents something about themselves. And then through talking about that sculpture, through explaining what that is for them, they literally are introducing themselves at a much different level than they have before. These students have been together for about 6 months, 1 semester, then they're with me for their second level. And bar none, they learn things about each other. Also, it starts to give them some practice and some hands-on experience with some of the activities that they'll be doing with people out in their I call it mental health land. So it's a really great time for them to practice sharing about themselves and listening to others. It also is an opportunity to connect with themselves as well as connect with others, which I think are very, very important concepts, but also more importantly, operational. They need to be put into operation as students get out there with people in this world. Another activity that I do, again, it's what I really work towards is making the invisible visible, which one of my teachers in the work of Mandala, which I'll share a little bit how I use Mandala, but she talked a lot about that, is that so often we try to use words and verbalizations for things that really cannot be put into words. So we use, and this is a team building, activity, but I thought it also illustrated a creative way to get students to conceptualize those educational sessions that they had been formulating. So I give them, 40 minutes to work on their session, get it ready, talk about it. And then I say, put all that aside. And now I dump a bag of 62 PVC pipes on the ground in their small groups. And I say, now, as a group, I would like you to use all of the pieces. It needs to be a self-standing structure that represents the concepts and topic of your session that you've just been hammering out together. So I use this for a couple of reasons. One is for them to actually start working together, which is like, oh, a concept to work together, especially when we've been so isolated and singled out this last 18 months. Plus, it also gives them an opportunity to be more abstract and not so concrete with, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But the sculpture or the team play tube structure that they build actually represents the story of their session. So that's been very interesting. And it gives me an opportunity as a faculty to watch their comfort level with each other, their communication as a team, and if they're able to move to a new level of understanding and sharing. Another thing that I use the creative arts and just so all of you know, I am co-presenting with Priscilla, but I've also been a client of hers at her week-long horse warrior training, which is just a fantastic training for any of you who are interested in working with horses and people, and particularly with the creative arts. But it's a very great training. So I've been through a couple of weeks with Priscilla, as well as additional work that I do. And this last 2 years, I've put together a mini retreat, and these mini retreats are called Creativity, Presence, and Compassion. Slow down, go inward, and step forward. And these half-day retreats really give people an opportunity in the caring and healing profession to take a time out for themselves. So we do some activities with horses. We work on our connection, our compassion, our really it's about connection and relationship. And then we move out of the work with the horses in the presence of horses and work with mandalas. So at the bottom of my screen, there are some examples of mandala that my clients have done, both on black paper or white paper. Sometimes I give them a theme like, I'm going to give you 45 minutes just to sit and contemplate hope in your life, or what is it you need to replenish yourself? And then they create the mandala as a symbol or a symbolic process of that. The picture at the top is a group mandala activity that I have a big pie-shaped thing that I cut my pie pieces out. And again, I give them some idea, and perhaps this last one I did just this past week, I had chaplains from our local hospital, and I had them take their wedge, and on that wedge, I would like them in words, pictures, or symbols, put what is it they contribute to their work? What is it from within that they contribute to their work? And then we all come together, do kind of a little group sharing, and then they put their wedges together. So group mandalas are a really great opportunity for, and I've done them with all age groups, children, teens, students, and people in professional work. One last thing that I'll share, I really use the creative arts in my own life. this is just a shameless plug for my book that's coming out sometime later this month. It's Spoke by Spoke, How a Broken Back and a Broken Bike Led to a Wholehearted Life. And on the cover of my book is that picture. And that picture is the wind chime that I created from the bike that I was actually injured on. So I use that as an example that sometimes we see this big mangled piece of mess. And really, if we think differently about it and use the creative arts, use our creativity, it can actually be fashioned into something of beauty and something that's different than what it was before. So I'm going to stop here and pass the baton to Priscilla, and she's going to share some really great work of hers.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, and it's really wonderful to share with Terry because, yes, she's been a student in some of our programs, but she's like one of the best facilitators I've ever met. And so it's just wonderful to have her be part of the program. She brings so much, to just what our curriculum is. I'm just going to give you a little quick background on Horse Warriors. Again, as I said, horses are kind of the hook to bring people together. Horse Warriors started as a discussion group with teenagers who really liked art and wanted to be hanging out with cool adults who weren't their parents. And I was meeting these kids because I was teaching in something called Partners, which is professional artists in the schools. And I was teaching at Teton Science School, Art and Literature and Nature. And I was doing a lot with kids with art. And through just, some other coincidences that came up, ended up having a lot of horses that needed some TLC, and Horse Warriors came out of that. But the initial gathering was with kids and art. And what I found, and I have found this kind of throughout my life, is that doing art and doing art together really opens up those doors for communicating. And, one thing that, Terry said about sharing, I want to piggyback on is we don't require anybody to share, but you know what? 9 times out of 9, they do. And when they do, I kid them and I just say, I want you to stand up so I can see you. We want to see everything that you're going to share. And that really, really helps them develop confidence, because they're not just standing up there all by themselves and being judged on their hair or their clothes or their makeup or no makeup or whatever. They've got something that's come out of themselves, this little creative nudge that sparked something that they could speak about and share with other people. So we started with teens. Through the teens, we learned that sometimes kids who are 15, 16, 17 have some pretty ingrained patterns of behavior that if we just started a little earlier, we might be able to help them in a more preventive way. So we backed up our starting age to age 6, and we had kids come with their parents, and we teach the kids to teach their parents. So we kind of flip that learning dynamic around, and every single session has art as part of it. Our women's groups focus mainly on women in transition, which means we get a lot of empty nesters and, middle-aged women who are kind of looking for another career. Those are so much fun. And those are the people who know that they can't draw, and they come out of it just knowing that they're great artists. And we focus on leadership, of course, with our teens. The horses are wonderful teachers about that, because they really care how you are. They don't care how you look. And through that, we do a lot of team building, because we'll bring kids together who are not necessarily friends, not necessarily in the same popular crowd group, but when you have that little buffer of the journaling and the horses, they start to see each other as people who are on the same team here at Horse Warriors. And at the bottom of this slide, I love this. This is a picture that one of our 6, 7, 8-year-olds drew of teaching her mother how to ride. And I always love, to look at these. It's like, well, that mom is really about the same size as the horse, and like, how do they prioritize what they're going to do? But in this picture, you'll notice that the student is also about as tall as the horse. And I happen to know this was a pretty tiny little kid, but being given the chance to be the teacher and share how she was as the teacher. There's quite a bit of stature here in this little picture.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I like to say art puts the pieces of us back together. I just, sharing about myself. If I hadn't had my creativity and my horse, I'd have been some terrible statistic, somewhere down the road. It really did save my life. And that's why when Terry and I talked about what we were going to call this, I said, I really want to call this Art Saves Lives, because if you can just find a voice, you're a step ahead of somebody who can't even express themselves. And that's why art just becomes so important, regardless of how polished it is. It's something that has come out of you. And I like to share this particular drawing. Terry and I talked about it because this is one that would really put you in a situation as a facilitator of, my gosh, am I the therapist or am I the art instructor? Am I going to, comment on the composition and the light and dark and the contrast, or am I going to go into, wow, what's really behind this? So this is an 8th grader. And she brought this to me because she was so proud of the art. So when I see something like this, it's well drafted, but it's so much from her inside that this is a wonderful piece that opened up a way for her to talk about the art and why she chose it and why it was so important to her. And there was more discussion about some of the things going on inside her family. And it was a great way for me to make the suggestion that, I know the school therapist, and she would probably be really interested in seeing that. You should show it to her too. And she's such a great person to talk to, about things that sometimes we feel like are out of our control. So that's where I make a segue into transitioning somebody to professional help, whereas I can still be a great supporter of my student who, loves riding my personal horse and all that, and say, wow, what a great job. I can see you put a lot of thought into that piece. So this is a lovely bridge piece. If you want to go ahead, Terry, we'll go on to some of the others. I love Dan Siegel. For those of you who know him from the mental health field, I think he's a great presenter and he has a lot of great ideas. And one of the lines that I've taken from him over the years, it's really, really important, is what's shareable is bearable. And we do so much sharing in our programs. And we like to share what's important to kids, not just necessarily what's important to us as instructors, but through that sharing, we do find that we have a lot of shared experiences. And because the majority of our students are middle school and high school, if you can think back to those worst times ever of your whole entire life, you feel like no one sees you, you're a weirdo, you'll never be as cool and popular as somebody else, you're the only one going through trauma. No, it's not true. We all have these transitions in our lives, and we all have aspirations. And one of the things that I love about something as simple as these vision boards, these are all done in their journals, is that there are some things that come out that are very, very similar. And when they see these and they share with them, mostly what we hear is, oh, I love that. Oh, I know it's just what you're talking about. Yeah, I feel the same way. And it's a good intro early on in your program, or, if you're doing this over a number of weeks, you bypass the I can't draw, anybody can cut and paste. And it takes the frustration of how am I going to make something into something that's really fun. Oh, does anybody want a picture of a tiger? Does anybody want a picture of some hiking boots? Most of our sessions are outdoors. So this is a great one to take up into the backcountry. You just throw a bunch of magazines and glue into a backpack. I mean, we put them in our packs on our horses and take them out into nature and do these really fun things. And it's very, very easy for anyone to do and facilitate. Okay, you want to do the next one? This is one of my favorite projects that we do, and there is a link in the handouts at the end to get these little masks. There's a friend of mine named Melissa Shandley who makes these horse masks. They're both large and small. These happen to be some pictures of some of the smaller ones, but we do the larger ones as well. And what I love and what our students love, or any of our participants love about the mask is you can be anything you want. You can be anything and you can hide anything. And it's really interesting to see what happens with your own perceptions of your vulnerability, how you would like to maybe try on a new identity. These masks that were done here were done by high school students, and they were honoring their horses. They were celebrating, and it was really interesting to listen to them talk as they were doing it, because some of them have older horses, some of them might have slower horses, some of them might have real pretty horses, some might not have so pretty horses. But what they did is they put the very best of what they could think of or what they thought someone else might like into creating these pieces. And you know what I found is while they're talking about it, as they're always talking while they're working, is things come out about what's good about a mask, what's fun about Halloween. How nice is it when you can take your mask off with other people? And very, very often they'll talk about being at Horse Wearers. Well, this is a place I'd never have to wear a mask. It was very hard for them when the pandemic hit and we were always wearing masks. It was kind of symbolic for them that they didn't like to have any kind of a barrier between themselves and their group. So, you know, one of the things that says it can help hiding become a creative process for being seen. This is a nice segue to let people start to branch out a little bit and bring things out that they have kept hidden. Again, we're not talking deep, dark secrets of being molested. We're talking about, you know, I don't feel pretty. I don't feel like I'm a good athlete. I'm not very smart. I don't get good grades. And then they can plug this into a mask that is something really pretty, that is something that has a lot of prowess about it. So I love these, and they're pretty easy to make. They take a little bit of fine motor skill on the small ones to assemble, but so far we've been able to do it, and our kids we have a variety of abilities in our programs. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is called visual journaling. And what I love about this is it takes people right into the present moment. This is like, where are you right now? Just take out a piece of paper, grab a couple colored pencils. I'm a big colored pencil artist, so that's why I share those mostly. And either through movement or color, or if you want to get as detailed, you can put in something that's recognizable, but a lot of these aren't. And just go with what you are feeling right now. And this is such a great exercise for people who struggle to verbalize. We do a lot of writing in our programs, but not everybody's good at it. Not everybody is a great creative writer. And those people love this exercise because they can share about where they're at right now, today. How are you right now? And if they want to share it, they can. If they don't want to share it, they don't have to, but they can get into the rhythm of what a feeling is. And so much of our lives that we don't share comes from the feeling realm. And when we are able to share, if we have a tool like this that we can just blurt out, it releases a lot of pressure. I love this. This is one of my favorite exercises to do, especially for teachers who think that they can't teach drawing. This is very, very simple. Okay, we'll do the next one, Sherry. These are event maps, and I call this what just happened. So when we run a program, we have our kids for a long time. We'll have them for like 7 hours for a session. So we'll get like a whole day's worth of activities that will come in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happened in one of our programs. It could be something that just happened. But to be able to break a series of events down in visual form, in kind of a little map form, helps people start to make sense of things. And one of the things that I love about this is the second thing I've written up here, it aids in processing things which are both in and out of our control. There are a lot of things that happen in our lives that we had a choice about. And because we made choices, we have consequences or, successes that come out of that. But there are some things that we don't have any choice about, like in the bottom map that we got caught in a horrific thunderstorm and thunder and lightning storm, and it was pretty terrifying. And it ended up that 16 people got hit by lightning on the Grand Teton that day. We were riding right at the base of that mountain, and one person was killed, which was a very, very sobering event. And because it was kind of scary to our students, it was great to have them do a map of that. What decisions did we make that kept us safe? What decisions were out of our control? I mean, like, we had to do things quickly because, excuse me, I'm just going to take that off. We had to do things that we had not planned on. The middle one is a great one of where children make a map of what happened that day with their parents. And at the bottom, it says, yay, that was a very successful day. And that is a memory that they can keep for a long time of when they got to be in charge, when they got to be recognized for something where they had a particular skill or expertise. The top one was a hysterical day when everything went wrong. Absolutely everything in the whole day went wrong. And we just turned it into something fun and something funny. The ducks coming out your butt. I mean, that's hysterical. But that poor horse was walking through very deep grass in the deep irrigated pasture, and all of a sudden, literally, a duck flew right out his butt. And we all laughed. He had a terrible time with it, but the rest of the day kind of followed that thread. But these are a lot of fun, and they can be very, very therapeutic. I've done a couple myself that I've actually shared with, therapists over the years of, wow, when I started looking at exactly what happened in this scenario or in this period of my life, I was able to figure some things out, or, even get some input from one of my therapists. I'm totally believe in therapy. Everyone should do it. It's great. All right, want to do the next one? Terry and I share a passion for mandalas. I think mandalas are one of the best tools for developing self-awareness. These are all done by high school students, and I'm super proud of them. Some of them are excellent artists in this group. And these were done over a period of time. And I started doing these because I found that kids are, again, because I work so much with kids, they are ruled by assignments. They have to get this done by Wednesday. They have to write a little paper. They have to read, 20 pages in their history book. And everyone else is telling them what's important. This is important for you. You're going to need this for college. And very rarely does someone come into their lives and say, what's important to you? What do you value? What's at your core? What's the most essential thing? And one of the things that I learned about, the word mandala, there are many interpretations, but one of them that came to me was, it was a combination of the words manda and la, which meant that which is of essence. So when I work with people with doing them, I ask them, what are the most important things that you would like to include in your life? And they run with it. They love these projects. Most of these were done over about a 3-day period where kids had maybe 3 or 4 hours a day to work on these. These came out of art and literature and nature, and then some from our horse warriors groups where the kids they may have had about 7 or 8 hours to put them together. They're a little more detailed than something you do quickly, but these are pieces that they treasure. And they love the symbolism. Again, for people who are not verbal or not verbally skilled, they can talk, but they aren't very able to share things, either through writing or conversation. These are pieces from the heart, and they're so important. And we love having kids do these. Next one. something that I think is very important whenever you're doing any kind of a session, a workshop, any kind of facilitation, is to have something to take away. And in the therapy world, they're called transitional objects. We do things where we have people make a little ringlet wreath with the tails from the hair from their horses' tails and stuff. But one of the things that I like to do, because it's like dirt cheap, these are just 4-inch squares of MDF tile. MDF is really cheap, is to make a piece at the end and just pull together whatever your session was. What was the biggest takeaway for you on this? And like the one on the top right, I'm not sure if you can see, Terry and I can see each other, but it's kind of a Georgia O'Keeffe-ish looking piece. And I was just going to share the story of that one because it was very, very touching. This was done by a woman who was a little older and was feeling like she didn't want to be old. She was, coming up, pushing 70. And she found through working with the horses, and we do a lot of riding in our program, I mean, it's very, very physically active, that she still had it. She could still do these things. And so she took kind of the Georgia O'Keeffe look of the skull, but put all these living flowers around it and brought a lot of life into this piece. And she said that was what she was taking away, was I can still do things. I am not an old woman. I mean, I may have long gray hair now, but I am not old. Society might want to tell me I am, but I am not. And this is what you can do after, at the end of what you've been teaching. You can have people take away something. We have one lady who, she was one of our first cancer kickers. We do a cancer program, and she still keeps her tile up over her kitchen sink. She drew a picture of a hawk flying because the horse she rode was Hawk. And that horse taught her that she would heal from cancer. So, they can be very, very powerful for whatever people, put into them. Okay. So now we're going to have fun with you. Go ahead. Did you want to say something, Terry, before we, okay. This is one of my favorite exercises to do. And I hope that you all have a piece of paper near you and something to write with. And if you don't, go grab one, because we're going to do a fun project together. And I was telling Terry, I was thinking about this in bed last night, thinking, we have all kinds of people in our programs, and what if some people, don't have a hand? We've had people without appendages, and well, you could do this with a foot too. And the exercise, it's called Touching the World, and it's how do you want to be touched or to touch the world in your life. And you can see this is just a whole variety of things that you can include here. But the easiest part of this exercise is you are tracing your own hand. So once again, you don't have to have a lot of art skills to do this. I'll quickly do mine and hold it up for you. So if you want to grab a piece of paper and trace your hand, this is how simple it is to just start this little piece. So I like to encourage people to.
Episode of me talking to you while I run for a bus here.
Oh, okay. I like to encourage people to use colors in this. What colors do you like? And we have you can get into color symbolism and, figure out why did I pick green for that? Why did I pick turquoise? That's a whole other session. That's a whole study of color therapy. But what are the things that are important to you? What, are relationships important to you? Is creativity important to you? I mean, if you look on the left-hand side, the third one down, that is one of mine. And what's really, really important to me, relationships. So on my ring finger, I had hearts, and I love to to write and I love to draw. So I made sure that on one of my fingers, kind of the finger that I used to point with, that I would be pointing things out in the world. I have a book, I have a pencil. Those are things that matter to me to be able to share. It matters to me to be able to create things that in some kind of form. So I put wooden, like wooden decking at the bottom of my hand, because I want that as a foundation. I want these things to be solid in my life. Obviously horseshoes are in there because the horses are important. On my little finger, I've just got like little wave marks. I like it sometimes to be able to just go with the flow. And there are days I wake up and I'll just say, hey, today I'm not going to do things and make things. I'm just going to kind of go and see where things go. And I like to be creating things that grow. So I have all these leaves on one of the fingers, but that's just why I've kind of picked things up. I want to be inclusive and I want to be tolerant. So we have a lot of different types of students that come through our program. So I put a rainbow on my thumb. What differentiates me from the animal kingdom is that, opposing thumb. And I want to think that what differentiates me from maybe some other people who are teachers or facilitators is I do want to be very, very accepting of anyone who comes to our programs. They've come for a reason, and I want to give them the very best experience of themselves that I can create. So that's just mine. I mean, the others have been, done by other people, and they all have meanings for them. I love the one, it's in the top row, second from the left. This was done by a 7th grader who was so happy to be given this this little exercise. She wanted to put every single thing in her life in it. So you can see she's got her astrology symbol, and she's got all her animals, and she's got, rainbow colors, and, pretty much anything she could put in. One of the ones that was down there next to me, it says make a difference. This was a student who really had some struggles. She came to us with only one leg, and she ended up being on the Michigan State equestrian team. She's a phenomenal yoga teacher now. She learned at our program that no matter who you are and what you're doing, you can make a difference. You can have a disability, that other people might see as a disability, but you can turn that into your ability. So I'm hoping you guys have traced your hands. If you can you hold them up and show us what you've got? Do we have a way, Chris, to show everybody? I love seeing your work.
So Priscilla, what you can do is you can we can just have people speak up. So if people want to raise their hand and show their, show their piece, maybe say a few words about it, that would be awesome.
What touches you? What do you want to touch?
And Dr. Chase, another way would be to turn off the screen share real quick and everyone switch to gallery view.
Oh, that would be great.
There you go.
Perfect.
So it looks like Denise, you want to say a few words about yours?
Wow, that's cool.
Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Muted. Denise, you'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's fairly simple. As soon as I traced my hand, a comment made by my sister upon my father's internment or his memorial service was, she picked up my hand really, really quickly at a luncheon and said, "Look, this is Dad's hand."
Wow.
And I looked at my hand and it truly does look, it's kind of short and pudgy and it's hardworking and funny. He's a great cowboy humorist, just on his own, and worked all his life, rodeoed as a kid. So I associate this hand with hard work, family, and so I did in color. I'm not sure why, because I like color and grid patterns. So I used the lined paper. So that's sort of where I'm at with this.
Oh, Denise, thank you. That's great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's really great. Anybody else have one? Steve, did you have yours? You're gonna have to unmute too. See if I can't unmute you. You'll have to unmute yourself. There.
There you go.
All right, I unmuted. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
All I have is lines. I'm a ceramic artist, and so I decided to put a stack of pots working its way up across my hand.
Hmm.
Wow, these are great.
Art.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Anybody else have one?
Nancy, we see your hand up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Here. So I'm in my office, so I don't have like colored pencils or anything, which is crazy. But I am a horse girl, and so I'm always doodling horses. And I started this, but what I loved was how the mane kind of goes up into the fingertips.
Wow.
And what I'm an author. I write for young teens, and one of the lines in one of my books that I love so much is the girl talking about wrapping her fingers in the feathery, soft mane of a pony, and that's sort of what came out. So this will be continued, but I just wanted to share because I love this. This is a
I
great.
love it. I love it. This is great.
Because you're the girl
Thank you.
too. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else have one? I'm kind of scrolling through, seeing if there anybody else who's got their video up. Well, thank you guys for sharing. Those are great. I mean, and you can see how simple it is. I mean, this was like 5 minutes of doing it, but things can come out really, really quickly, and they can be fun. And gosh, Nancy, I might send you some colored pencils. I think I have over 1,000, but to not have them in your office, that's just kind of breaking my heart here.
I know. It's sad.
So, well, does anybody have any questions for us? This is our.
Yeah, I did put our contact information up there on the screen. So if there's anything specifically you want to get in touch with either of us individually, feel free to do that. We do have about 5 minutes, I think. Yeah.
I saw there were some comments in the chat about, doing the hand thing for the writing students. That's great.
Mhm.
That's great. That's what we use to write. Hopefully people still use their hands, because something that happens, just like that kind of brain gym connection between your hand and your brain, and holding a pencil is very, very different from typing at a keyboard. So I really do encourage people to pick up a pen literally and write and draw.
Terry and Priscilla, there's a question in the chat from Denise.
Oh, okay, great. Let me look in the chat here.
Yeah, asking how do you bring artists into the programs? Do you issue invitations?
Oh, yes, we do. And if you are someone who would like to be part of our program, please get in touch with me, because what we do over the winter, we have journals every day, because kids take them to every session, but we have guest artists come for weekend retreats over the winter, and they come like for the full day and teach something that is in your expertise. So if you are interested, please email me and we can talk about that. We do those down at our ranch in Thane, and the kids just come for the day, and those are the middle school and high school students who are in our programs year round. The other programs are either week-long programs or 8-week programs, but the middle and high school kids, they come forever. That would be great. Yeah, Nancy, that'd be great. I'd love to have more people come do it. It's really fun. This weekend, we're doing something brand new for us. We're doing felted animals. We have not done too much dimensional work, so we're really looking forward to that. And we just had a fabulous watercolor session last month, and would love to incorporate some of you. Any other?
So I have a question for everybody who's out there. I would like to see if you would be willing to put in the chat box one takeaway from our session today. a word, a phrase, an image, something like that. So if we could have you guys do that in the chat box, so that that would be really great for us to see and for others to see as well. So one takeaway from today: word, phrase, idea, something. Flexibility, love it. Reminder how to use our hands to create, make the brain fog lift, unmasking, open and inclusive, uplifting and informative, creative healing, impact. Thank you. Mapping events. Yeah.
These are great. These are helpful for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Anything else? Any other takeaways? Fast seeing. Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. Art starts. Oh, that's a great one. Art starts conversations. Jumbled mess and making something beautiful. Mandalas. Yep. Personal growth while art. I'm not too old.
Yay, Holly, I'm not old either.
Well, Priscilla and Dr. Chase, we've just got a couple minutes left, so I just want to hop in and thank you again for speaking to us today on behalf of everybody here at the Wyoming Arts Council. Yeah, we really appreciate you sharing with us today. So
You bet. Thank you. And thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, we love it. And Wyoming Arts Council, I mean, just being in Wyoming for so many years, it's wonderful to have it.
Getting our PowerPoint presentation to them, as well as our whole list of resources.
Dr. Chase and Priscilla provided me with a copy of their slideshow and a resource list that I'm going to try to send out an email to everybody with those. There's a chance we may post it on our website or some other option like that as well. But so keep your eyes open for that. And yeah, again, feel free to get in touch with either of them if you want to learn more. So.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. It was great to spend art time with you all today.
Yes. Thanks.
Always
Thanks.
the best time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great one. Bye.
Bye-bye.